Welcome back. We're the Bourbon Junkies. He's Dan, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, dude. We're going to talk to you about the major bottles of whiskey in our whiskey journeys.
Yeah.
Thus far.
So yeah,
We're here.
You know, we've been in the whiskey game for a little bit now.
Hold on, before you do that, because we both forgot, and it's Nicholas Jones's video.
Nicholas Jones's video.
Bert,
It's Dark Rye.
it is my mission to drink every bottle on this back wall when it's your day. Thanks, Nick Jones. Just
You know what? You complete your mission. I'm good.
when you get into whiskey, you like one thing and then you find something cool that you really enjoy and then you move on to the next thing and then you find a distillery. We have these categories as milestones. We're gonna go through our milestone whiskeys.
Dan's first love was Basil Hayden Dark Rye.
Okay, no it wasn't. And Nick Jones, I want to...
No, current favorite. I'm sorry.
No, dude. I have so much normal Basil Hayden thanks to Nick Jones. So really fast.
This was like your first
whiskey I ever drank. And this
Yeah.
isn't even on the list. This is just the first whiskey I ever had was Wild Turkey 101.
I had drank whiskey for a little bit, thought I knew whiskey, and I looked at this and I went, I'll drink that. And then I went, why does it taste like fire?
She's a hot gal.
Why? But since then, we've
It's
really come to
phenomenal.
love Wild Turkey. And I mean, it's hard to beat 101 for 26 bucks.
What you learn when you get into whiskey is what you acclimate to is that some whiskeys are actually great and you just didn't like them at the time. This has happened with us with Scotch as well.
Yeah.
But we had Wild Turkey 101 in a college, and when we lived with our buddies in college, he had some in his room and we tried it. It was like, oh my fire,
Blows your
hellfire,
socks
brimstone,
off. Yep.
Satan, all of it, dude. So,
All right, Daniel,
the bottles, round one, milestone one.
what got you in the whiskey?
What bottles that got us into whiskey at all?
Good old Jack Daniel's number 7.
It's sideways.
Oh,
Gentleman Jack. Gentleman Jack. There, we nailed it. All right, we did that.
yeah. So 80 proof, that's what I was used to
I
drinking.
think this is 80 or 90.
And I used to do
80.
mixers, and when I felt fancy, you drank her straight, just a glass. And people thought, that guy's crazy. He's just drinking a glass of whiskey.
Yeah, like what a man.
Yeah,
That's a man's man.
80 proof though.
And it's 80 proof and tastes like banana runs.
Yeah.
Listen, it's not bad whiskey by any means. Still isn't today.
Still like Jack Daniel's number 7.
Yeah, it's a solid bottle.
It got me to where I am
Yeah.
now because of it.
Gentleman Jack used to be like $28. Now it's like 35 or something. But Gentleman Jack, for some reason, I had that. I'm like, don't like it. Had this, I was like, oh my gosh.
way better.
This is like banana cream pies, and it was fantastic.
That double mellow that they do.
Triple, quadruple mellow.
Is it like 12 proof? What do we got on
80.
this?
So,
Still
yeah.
80, wow.
Yeah. This is what we cut our teeth on.
100%.
This is teeth cutting whiskey.
Like that was the whiskey I was born and bred on. My brother liked Jack Daniels, and that's pretty much why I drank Jack like back in the day.
I don't know why I bought this initially. This is a really good thing to add to the video that we didn't talk about beforehand.
Go ahead.
This bottle shape's pretty.
That tracks, actually.
Next bottle is
Game changer.
the first time you found a bottle of whiskey that was like, whoa, there's like way more going on here than I thought there was.
It was not the same simple profile that I was used to. There was a little bit more elevation.
Yeah.
I was just taken aback at how good a whiskey could be.
Next
and
level.
A lot of people are going to be upset by this. Eagle Rare. This was gas station whiskey when we were getting into whiskey.
People are going to be really upset by that.
Yeah.
it was-
Also, very available.
This was-
at the time.
I lived in a different city in literally two houses ago. This was $34.99, and it was available every time I went to Magabev in Battle Creek or Kalamazoo.
I was paying about 22, 24, something like that for Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
It really hasn't moved in price in the last.
and that was 30.
This is like 28, 29.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, all right, that's
it's
a little
10 years
fancier.
old.
Eagle Rare at the time. I
Yeah.
thought, like, how fancy could we get?
Wine bottle, it's got stars on it.
Yeah.
It's freedom.
Foil.
It's freedom. It's got
Instead
the
of just
bourbon.
the plastic shrink wrap on the top,
Yeah.
it had a foil wrapper. I was like, dude, this is some fancy stuff. And this is like, honestly, the whiskey that changed my perspective on whiskey a lot.
The way that I came up on whiskey after like the simple Gentleman Jack type thing was at Magabev, they actually had a guy who worked there who was super into whiskey, and bourbon specifically. And he was like, dude, do you want to get into bourbon? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, you should try. And I was like, all right, cool. And then he was like, how about this? I recommend a bottle to you. They'll be relatively cheap. Take it home. The next time you come back, you can tell me how you felt about it, and then I'll recommend something based on that.
Shout out to that guy.
Shout out to that guy.
I mean, realistically.
In theory.
I mean, that's that butterfly, the little flap of the wings.
That's the Master Couture stuff right there, dude. The second or third time, he recommended Elmer T. Lee, and he goes, I know it's a little bit more expensive because I was buying like $25 bottles.
40.
And it was $34.99. It wasn't even 40.
Oh,
it was $35. And I bought it, and when I came back, I was like, okay, so every time I come now, I'm just gonna buy one of these and then what you recommend.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into Elmer. Like I said, this was
Can't
like
drink a lot of Elmer.
Case stacked on the, it was just there were 6 deep on the shelf. I don't know, man. Okay.
All right.
Next
bottle.
So the next bottle is gonna be the first distillery that we started tracking with. So the first distillery that you like taste something with, you're like, oh, I should try something else from them.
Yeah.
So you started to fall in love with the distiller's profile or their product line.
Yeah, you branch out a little bit more. Woodford was mine. I used to really like the regular Woodford double oak, which at the time came in the same bottle
as normal Woodford,
but had the goldish brown tinge wrapper. I was like, dude, I gotta try
it was like a copper foil.
$60.
It was
and I was
60.
like, ooh.
That's when you start balling out of control.
Ooh, that was like the fancy bottle back in the day.
Back
$60.
That's also back when like most normal whiskeys, everything was MSRP.
Yeah. 60 to 80 was the dead zone.
It was.
Yeah.
60 was the top of like pretty damn good whiskey.
Yeah.
And then 100 was like ultra special, that B-tax and whatever.
I wasn't balling. I was balling on a budget, and Woodford Double Oak was mine, and this is a bottle just like Eagle Rare that I still really, really appreciate to this day.
That's solid bottle. That's actually still a solid bottle whiskey. Mine was High West, Burreye specifically, but High West in general. This is a 2015 Burreye. The first time I ever met Brandon Sprague was in a Kmart parking lot, and I had traded him, in theory, Old Forester store pick for old 2015 Burreye because they have 17-year-old Barton whiskey in them. So
great trade.
Fantastic. Gentleman
Made
of a
friends
man.
out of
Gentleman
it too.
of a man.
That's what I went
He
with.
was Brandon was the first person I ever met that watched our channel.
Holy smokes. Okay, think about this. We would not have. Holy smokes, dude.
Yeah. Obviously,
Whoa.
Chris and Brandon are like very around the channel.
Yeah, they're family to us
They
at this
are
point.
family, 100%. So, but yeah, High West, I fell in love with Burreye, and then I found I loved Son of Burreye more, and then Midwinter Night's Dram was like,
it's okay.
That's kind of where we went. But unfortunately, these have changed, and I won't say they've gotten worse, but they've changed significantly. Midwinters have not been as good as like 4s and 5 Act.
Distillery only, 150, 125 bucks, whatever you're looking at here.
But those
are 125 now, right? And Midwinter's is 150. So
this was
mine's still 60.
This was 60 or 80 at the time, and it had 17-year-old bourbon in it.
Hey, yours is doubled in price. Mine stayed the same. All right, next bottle. So the hidden gem. We started getting into more whiskey, having more bottles.
Yep. Start tasting way more stuff.
Yeah, you guys know it. You guys love it. Early Times Bottle Bond.
Specifically a plastic screw top.
$22.99 for a liter. I still have a case of these in my basement.
I know, and I have 4 open ones because we need them for videos, and Sean makes me open mine.
Yeah.
So
you don't appreciate it.
I don't care.
You don't appreciate it.
I don't care as much. I went and bought a case too.
This, when I found it, it was like, this is complete benchmark whiskey for me. This is everything that was. I held everything to this standard as a good baseline whiskey.
I think the difference is once you start getting into whiskey, initially your thought is, oh my gosh, if that's $100, it's better than $60 whiskey. Mm-hmm. If that's $500, that's better than $100 whiskey.
Yeah,
and it takes a little while to figure out that sometimes it's true and then sometimes it's also just not.
Yeah, I don't know how many bottles that we bought and we're just like, wow, that wasn't worth it. And then come back to something like this was so refreshing because it was like, no matter what, I can go anywhere. I can pick one of these up and be happy. I can share this with people and they're gonna like it. It was just always a good, standby for me.
And when you find something that is cheap, when you're in the part of where you're like, I have to spend 60 to 100 to get a good bottle, and you find something that's 20 to 40 even, and you're like, well, what? That actually competes with 60s? Then you're like, wait, maybe everything changes now. Like all of the rules have been reset, right? It's just
Makes you look at things
a learning.
differently.
It's a step. You took another step. So for me, It was this beautiful, and it's actually not this one specifically, but it's a Redwood Empire. This is the American whiskey. Redwood Empire has changed their labels, and you guys know Lost Monarch and Pipe Dream and stuff, Emerald Giant. But this was what Redwood started with. My favorite one has a pig on it.
Little pig one,
and that's the special one. And I have 2 pigs bunkered, but this one's open, and it's out here. This is a port finish burr rye. The way I found out about this was actually Austin Hubbard sent one, had never heard of them. And Austin Hubbard sent one. I cracked it and I'm like, why is that freaking phenomenal? I've never heard of it, never seen one. They were in Michigan at the time he sent it. So then,
or so?
Yeah, $39.99. I went out, found all, I think I ended up buying 2 or 3 like the next week because I had found them. Then I found the pig ones. Now they make Lost Monarch, which I'm a humongous fan of, but this bottle for me was the first time where I was like, wait, those are $39.99. I'm in love with that.
Yeah.
And like Woodford Double Oak 60 and this is 80 and whatever.
I know,
but,
and it was just hard for me to beat that $23 price tag.
and then you keep them close to your heart for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Until, they sell them to a different company.
All right.
Anyways, next bottle.
Next bottle.
This was our first chase bottle, like the big boy bottle that we were always looking for, always hunting for, trying to find into a store.
One of the things that happens when you get into whiskeys, you start hunting for whiskeys. And when you hit that point, and it's a big bottle, it's hard to find, you hunt for it, and it comes out once a year. These are our first chase bottles.
Hey.
I got Sean his first George C. Stagg ever at retail.
Yes, he did.
It was a surprise. What a good friend I am.
George C. Stagg still has a very soft spot in my heart. Yeah. It's one of like the first big bottles I think we ever got on the channel. We were over the moon when we got the bottle of George C. Stagg, and we were excited to share it with people because it was like that cool bottle. And I think that's what the chase bottle is about. Is you get something like this and you're like, let me get that good stuff for you.
Can I tell you what's interesting about your chase bottle? Yeah. Yours like really stood up though.
Yeah.
Because when you're, especially like earlier in the journey, you see something and it could just be pure marketing or it could be like, there's a lot of hype, either white, whatever.
You're good with it.
But then you might get one and that year's good and next year's not and next year's okay, whatever. That one stands up every year realistically.
Pretty much, yeah.
So
people always be like, oh, well, this year's worse than the last year. And we got that on the review of this
all the
year.
George C. Staggs are good.
They were like, oh, I thought it was disappointing. It was like, no, they're still amazing whiskey.
You can't call it disappointing, it's still one of the best.
Yeah.
While you're here, before I do my bottle, though, just like and comment, subscribe. I just remembered
insult
that.
people.
I just
great.
remembered that.
Go ahead and
if you
do
just click it. It helps us a lot. We love you. All right.
I could have guessed this one for you, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know why. No idea why. Still to this day, no idea why. I'm in love with birthday bourbon.
What's your birthday bourbon?
I'm freaking in love with it. And I don't even know why I'm in love with it. Every year, it's the best smelling whiskey we've ever smelled. And it's one of the most middle of the road whiskeys we've ever tasted. But
smells amazing.
Every year is like one bottle that still to this day I try to get. This is their limited, right? Let's go Distillery Limited. Okay. BTAC.
Yeah.
Woo! We're also, BTAC's also the top of the freaking, we're at the peak Everest is BTAC. Parker's Heritage, Heaven Hills. Usually phenomenal, right? We'll say pretty close to the peak Everest.
Last couple years have been just
monsters.
Hitters.
Last 3 years in a row,
You didn't like
actually.
the wheat as much. The heavy
no, but the rye and the double charred bourbon
were amazing.
I mean, dude.
The double barrel this year.
The Orange Curacao is the only one that we weren't like madly in love with. So we got 2 big ones.
Yeah.
Now, in theory, Old Forester would be a really high limited because of the brand. Because Jack Daniel's is cresting the peak, dude.
Yeah, and their limiteds are actually
phenomenal
higher
and $70
too.
Yes, and they're cheap and more findable. Now, I will say that
Why are you so infatuated with this bottle? We're really tearing this down.
No sense, and I'm in love with it. I have a 2015 for my son. I have a 2019 for my daughter.
It's the worst bottle shape ever, too.
It sucks to drink out of. It sucks to pour from. It sucks to bottle flip. Cool as hell. I don't know, man. There's no reason, okay? There's no logic. There's no reason based behind it. This is the first bottle I ever wanted from a hyper limited series.
That's fair.
For no reason at all. All right.
Last bottle.
Last one. Last round.
This is something that we still currently hunt. We always look for, like when we go to a store, like walk around, just find different things. So I'm always looking for this.
At some point you move past the hype. And at some point you figure out what is generally pretty good and is generally whatever. Once you get past like, dude, I've been hunting for a long time and now hunting's the worst it's ever been in theory. So it's like you can't find stuff consistently. Then you're like, if I find this thing now, it would mean way more to me.
Everyone gets to watch me put this together in real time that I put 3 bottles from the same distillery on here.
Oh my gosh, you did. Oh my gosh. No, hold on. buddy, you put 3 from each distillery on there.
Oh, yeah.
You had 2 distilleries on your whole list.
No, Brown-Forman is not a distillery. They're a parent company.
Brown-Forman and Sass, dude, and we're done.
Okay.
Those were all, nobody knows this. Those were all on the table before we started this video. Neither of us saw it.
Nope.
All right, go ahead. Explain to the people what you still look for and would be hyper excited to find right now.
So, Stag Junior. Well, it's Stag now. I mean, these are, I know. No one needs to yell at me. I understand the limited availability on this bottle. That's why it's still something I would love to see. If it was 100 and under,
yeah,
I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna get back in the car. I'm gonna complain to my wife that I just paid $100 for this bottle, but I'm gonna be very happy that I have it.
But when he opens it, because like, hell yeah.
I mean, it was the same thing we talked about the George Stags.
Yeah.
We get them, we compare them against the years past, and we're like, okay, we think this year's better.
Yeah.
They're still always great. Yeah. I mean, for a price tag, if it honestly is $60, it is so hard to beat this bottle.
To justify a little bit for you, one time there's a man named Klein.
Yeah.
And he was on a work trip or something. I don't know, he's out of the state. He texts me a picture, he goes, dude, found George C. Stag. I'm like, oh my gosh, grab me one. Or, sorry, Stag Junior. I said, grab me one. Didn't even ask the price because I'm like, if Klein's willing to buy it, it must be a reasonable price. This is pretty like crazy prices. Klein brings it back and he's like, all right, man, it's $100. I'm like, what? Excuse me, they're 60. And he goes, I didn't tell you it was 100. And I'm like, I don't know. I think he did and I just missed it. I think it was actually what tracked. Now, we opened that was batch 12.
Yes, it was.
Which happened to be one of our favorites ever. So it proves that there are plenty of times, there are definitely times where $100 is worth it for a Stag Junior.
I mean, so it's barrel proof. They're usually 8-ish, we'll give or take on those.
8 to 10.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm not gonna round too far up because people will be like, well,
I think most are 9.
Yeah. Barrel proof, delicious. One of my favorite $60 bottles to ever exist in time, I feel. And
it's
I
one
feel
of the
like
best
a lot of
$100
people,
bottles on the planet.
A lot of people would also say that.
Usually. All right.
What would you be excited to walk in? Oh, I didn't even see what you grabbed.
Sean didn't
I did not see that.
I bunker these.
Uh-huh.
This is Blue Run. It's not. Here's the thing. I'm so infatuated with this brand and this whiskey that's in these bottles.
I can't fault you.
Emerald Rye is phenomenal, by the way.
Oh.
If you see an Emerald Rye, buy Emerald Rye. If you're a rye fan,
I think that's their
so freaking good.
My favorite product from them.
Yeah. So Blue Run, I think, is a really cool distillery, and I think what they're doing is really cool. Well, they do high rye bourbons they batch those, right? Mm-hmm. So every so often there's a new one. Every one I've had from the previous has gotten better. The newest one has been the best one every time I've tried them.
What batch are they on?
They're on fall 2022.
Okay.
Would be the newest one you could buy right now.
Okay.
And you can get these for around 80 in Kentucky. This is a single barrel one. We actually have a Blue Run pick now. I'm so freaking excited. It's literally a dream come true. But
we were chosen.
Yes, we were. But Blue Run is something that like we don't get in Michigan.
No.
Sealbox does. Actually, I think Sealbox ships to Michigan now, so I think I can ship them here now because they switched some stuff.
Yep.
But I was having them sent to Ohio to a buddy, and then he would just drive them up whenever he came up. Blue Run is something like I legitimately hunt and buy and open and drink. So
no one would cross state lines with whiskey.
You can with
one,
with 5 or something.
Okay.
And I only buy 1 to 3 at a time. So we're 100. We're
covered with the Suburban. It's weird.
It's weird. The Tahoe's sagging. But yeah, Blue Run is. It is. It's one of those things.
What do you guys think of the list?
Everybody has their own.
Like it, dislike it.
Yeah.
One way or the other. That's kind of our bourbon journey.
It is. So far, thus far.
Sorry, Scott, if you feel like we ripped you off on that one, because that's my bourbon journey. Gotcha. No?
Scott's like, I hate you.
Yeah, that's probably
fair.
fair.
I don't like you before this. I don't like you now.
Oh, dude,
How annoyed do you think people are with you for picking 2 distilleries and with me for picking Blue Run?
Buddy, I didn't even realize that until I was on the last bottle.
I didn't realize it until you started laughing. I looked over
because
and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I went stag to stag, and then I picked up my glass. I'm like, I'm drinking Eagle Raider. There we go. It's all Nashville 1.
Other 3 Brown-Forman.
Nashville 1. Nashville 1. Nashville 1.
Okay, somebody explain this to me in the talk out. If Brown-Forman isn't a distillery, why are they allowed to put their name on King of Kentucky? Does it not interest you that they don't bury that in somebody's line? They don't bury that under Old Forester? In theory, if you think about it, after we went to Jack, they told us how big of a chunk of Foreman's portfolio Jack is.
Yeah.
It's over 50%.
70.
Don't you think that you would just bury Brown-Forman in Jack?
Yeah, I
it's
guess.
your biggest, it's easily, I mean, because you're talking the other, they have a lot.
Yeah.
And if they're 70,
The rounding error was what, 1 million bottles or something like that on what they sold in the year. They were like, it's somewhere around here. 1 million bottles.
Was the ish. But you would think that, now here's the only thing I can think is for the same reason that Jim Beam Port decanter
has the,
when you put Jim Beam on a $200 bottle, people are like, what? Jim Beam's $15, man.
Yeah.
Can't be $200. But we got Coy Hills, and that is one of the greatest whiskeys. So I don't know. I think it's so interesting. Brown-Forman has their own whiskey, not a distillery.
Yeah.
Has their only one whiskey. They don't have 5. They don't have a line. They have a. They have the King of Kentucky. Very odd to me.